All right, everyone. We're sending the link to the Nearpod. We have 9 of you at the Zoom call. So far, there are 5 of you in uh, Nearpod. So please make sure to join because that's what we use to take attendance. In the meantime, what you guys are doing for the Nearpod is you're looking at these 2 diagrams. Each diagram is showing you a rigid motion that was performed. Yesterday, you guys learned about the corresponding parts after the A rigid motion and how to label them. Okay, so all you're doing right now is thinking about which rigid motion was performed and then labeling the uh, the one that has the boxes with the correct letters. So remember, there's a certain way to label them for a pre-image, which is the original, and a certain way to label the figure for the image, which is the one after the motion. You guys have about 2 minutes left, and then we'll get started on the discussion. Got about 1 more minute left on the do now. Good, good. I'm seeing some good responses so far. Great. Okay. So let's get started with this discussion. And then we'll do the agenda slide. That way we don't have to resubmit again. Okay. So looking at these again, you were asked to think about the rigid motion that was performed and label the one with the boxes with the correct letters based off of the rigid motion that was performed and about what you know when it comes to labeling a pre-image, the original, and labeling the image, the one after the motion. Okay, so let's take a look at a few of these. I'm going to share this one first. And for this one, we're going to just look at the one left, the purple and the yellow. Okay. So we're seeing this one and we see that the letters were written in the boxes. Okay. Later on, next week, we're going to talk about more detail, how exactly we know for sure where these letters go. For now, what we wanted to see more of the labeling of the image and the pre-image, whether it was the correct notation. So this one is Chris Maylin's. All right. Would you be able to explain to us, please, which of the 3 motions this one you think is showing? Either is it flip, turn, or slide? So we got in the chat, we got that this one is a flip, and that is correct. Thank you, Chris Malin. This one was definitely a flip. So a hint is when you see a line usually like that, sometimes there won't be, but most of the time there will, it's going to be a flip. Think about like the crease in your notebook. When you flip a page over, you see there's a crease. That's usually going to mean a flip. So thank you for that, Chris Malin. Yes. And we see that the labeling has these little apostrophes, these tick marks that mean prime. Remember, we say these are prime. So I'm going to go to another one that shows us primes. Okay. And let's share. This one is Reynaldo's. All right. You also wrote flip for this one. Can you just explain to us what those primes mean? When do you put a prime on the letter, Reynaldo?
What's
Say it again, please. We can't hear you for some reason. It's okay. You can type it in the chat. All right, because I think there's some audio issue. I see that you're unmuted, but for some reason we can't hear you. So just try typing in the chat. In the meantime, can anyone else tell us by unmuting, when do we use the primes for the letters?
you still talking to me?
Oh, I can hear you now. Yes, we couldn't hear you before.
Yeah, I couldn't hear you either. That's me. That's me. My internet's bad.
Oh, okay. No, it's okay. So
Uh,
when do you use the primes?
the prime is which part?
So we see that you wrote primes for the letters in the yellow and purple. When the little apostrophe, the little apostrophe.
Oh, that's for the image.
Thank you. Yes, you use the primes for the image, the one that comes after, right? So if the yellow one didn't have primes, that means that's the pre-image. So after it was flipped, it became the purple, and those were the primes. So thank you. Thank you for that perfect answer. Now let's look at the second one. All right, let's look at the second one right here. So this one, okay, shows us the labeling of the red and the green. All right. So this one is you guys can't see it. Huh? Now you can see it. This one is Fausto. Fausto, would you be able to tell us which motion happened here? Was it a flip, turn, or slide? Yes, Fausto. Thank you. You wrote it in the chat. It is a turn. Okay, it's a turn. Awesome. And for this one, we see your letters don't have um, the apostrophes. They don't have the prime. How did you know that these would not have the prime? What gave it away in the diagram that the ones you wrote would not have a prime? Thank you. Fausto wrote because it was the pre-image. Yes, that's absolutely correct. We see the one that was given, the red already has the primes, so that's the image. And Fausto said he put them without primes because the green is going to be the pre-image, the one before. So it actually went from green to red. Good job. All right. So now we know how to label and identify, reviewed it, the pre-image and image. We're now going to move ahead with using this to solve. So let's look at our agenda for today. Right, we're going to use these rigid motions to solve for unknowns. We did our do now discussion. Next, we're going to go into Nearpod and do some activities to further strengthen, this recognition of rigid motions and corresponding parts, the parts that overlap, right? We're then going to go into whiteboard and use that to solve for unknowns, followed by an exit slip at the end. For today's exit slip, you will be uploading notebook work, okay? So just keep that in mind as we now go ahead into our first activity.
Nice. It was cool seeing everyone's work and everyone's thoughts on this. By the way, Mr. Ricarte, I love your cat that you had on your agenda slide. It
Thank you.
was so cute. Okay, so I'm now starting an activity where we have two triangles and one triangle, FAR, has been slid so that it is mapped onto triangle pod. Okay. Actually, the triangle seems to be far and far. So one triangle was slid onto the other triangle. And we really want to focus on finding X, Y, and Z. So if it was slid, what would X be? What would Y be? And what would Z be? Don't overthink it. That's why we gave you a short amount of time, because just want you to observe and write. I have about 45 seconds left. Okay, so we have a couple of ideas, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to ask one or two people to share out loud to kind of get our brain juices flowing a little bit more. So let's see. Louis, Bruno, I see that you have X is 12, Y is 13, and Z is 5. What helped you get to that answer? And if you're not able to talk for some reason, it's okay. Just let us know on the chat. Really interested to hear what your thought process was. Okay, a few other people also wrote the same thing. On the chat, Louis, you said that because as stated, the shape slid. Okay, so Louis, it seems like you took the word slid and that was a clue that led you to believe that X was 12, Y was 13, and 5 was Z. Janice, can you add to Louis's thought process? Louis said that because it slid, it stayed like the same. Is there anything else in the diagram that kind of clued you in to your answer of 12, 13, and 5? Janice, what was your
The
thought?
shape didn't change.
Okay, the shape didn't change. Interesting. What didn't change about the shape?
Like the lengths and the sides are the same.
The sides are the same. Awesome. And how about the position? Did the position stay the same?
Yeah.
Yeah, right? So we're thinking of words like position. We're thinking of words like same. We're, like Lewis said, we're looking at what happened to the shape, and then we're coming to a conclusion about what the side lengths might be of these different sides. So many of you said 12, 13, and 5. We're gonna have a poll before we go into our breakout room. And in this poll, I'm gonna ask you to click on the image so that it can be a little bit bigger for you. But I'm gonna read it before I start it. Figures 1 and 2, well, I can start, so I guess you can click on the figure. Figures 1 and 2 have been flipped somehow. And we're asking you which statement must be true after this rigid motion has been done. So take a moment to look at each scenario. The first one says angle H is congruent to angle L. So look at angle H in figure 1 and think, is that true? Is that congruent to angle L? If this figure was flipped, if figure 1 was flipped onto figure 2. Move on to the next one. So move on until you find one that you feel like is the most correct. And pick that one as your answer. You have about a minute and 5 seconds to just read through them and pick which one you feel is the correct one. Okay, so the time is up on our poll, and I'm going to quickly share the results of the poll. On our poll, we had the majority, that lime green, the majority of the students said that it was D, that angle G is congruent to angle M, that G and M are congruent. Followed by a split between the other three. So it seems like we're still getting into the habit of looking at what is matching and why we could say that one thing is congruent to another thing. What I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna ask a couple people to share kind of what, why someone would pick D, because D was the one that a lot of people picked. And I'm curious to know why D was the one that a lot of people picked. I don't know. Lizbeth, if you can unmute yourself and share why you picked D. I'm not sure if you can see the image, like if you can click on it and are able to see it or not.
I can't see it, so I picked D because I basically like flipped it in my head to see if it would match up for each one of them, and D matched up for like the image. So
Awesome, Lizbeth. Yeah, that is a very good strategy. Flipping it in your head is a good strategy. And I wonder if there are any more strategies that like we can use to solve these. Naomi, is there a strategy that you use that you can maybe add on to Lizbeth's?
Well, for every choice, I try to like look at both to see like if they matched up, and that like yeah, I just did that.
Okay, Naomi, so I'm hearing that you did like a process of elimination to see what was true and what was not true. which is also a very great strategy. I'm sure that all of you are realizing that geometry doesn't have a lot to do with calculating. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of calculation, but it's about going through the mathematical process, guessing. Like Lisbeth said, visualizing it in your head. Like Naomi said, testing different things out. It's like we're scientists almost. But okay, I think it's time. I think we feel good enough to move into breakout rooms and start solving. Mr. Ricarte, how do you feel about that? Do you feel like we're ready?
I think we're ready. Yeah. Keep up that visualization, figure out which parts match, and we're going to see exactly how we can use that to solve for unknowns. So I think we're definitely ready for the whiteboards. We'll see you there when you get your breakout room link.
See you.
All right, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of us in this breakout room. I see you guys are one by one coming in. So when we get a few more in the whiteboard, I will send you all the pages which we're going to use. All right. Welcome Ari, Chris Melin, Kristen, Naomi, Rinaldo. Oh, we have 8 people now, so we're waiting on 3 more. So let's get started. So in this first one, it's showing us a flip, right? One was flipped over the line to get on top of the other, to completely overlap, to map onto. The fact that we're going to use is that after a rigid motion, corresponding sides have equal lengths. So the first thing I want you to do is, using different colors, circle the pairs of lengths that match. So if you look at the little pencil icon, there is a little like painter's palette kind of thing. Click on that to pick a color. And then start circling the ones that match. All right, so to start us off, I know that when I flip it after visualizing, W and 13 correspond to each other. They overlap, they match. I see some of you already ahead of me. That's great. I see Naomi circled 11 and 3y minus 1. That's perfect. I see that Reynaldo circled 2x plus 4 and 16, which leaves us with the last one, 14 and 7z.
Join me on the whiteboard and you should see a nice diagram with a line on it. Middle. I have Brandon, Damien, Felicity, Miguel here ready to tackle this problem. Darluisa and Brandon, you're here as well. Okay, so I think we have everyone. Like I said, this is a small group. We're going to really think about these different things, and we do these smaller groups so that we have more ideas and we can kind of talk about it out loud together. So please feel free to unmute yourselves and talk when called upon. And if for some reason you can't because there's stuff going on around you, we get it. It's kind of busy in the morning for a lot of people, so you can just put the reason on the chat, or you can kind of communicate on the chat as much as you can. So I'm going to push something to you. Okay, I'm going to push a diagram to you, what's on my board. And on my board, I have 2 figures. Okay, I have a figure on the left and I have a figure on the right. I have a little line in between. I'm going to state, for the sake of our purposes, that the figure on the left is a figure that could be flipped and flipped on top of figure 2. So I'm going to say that for our purposes, that is the case. If figure 1 was flipped onto figure 2, what could these question marks on figure 2 be? So I want you to take a moment and look at it. before you start guessing. Okay, so try to think of what the question marks on figure 2 might be. We have these two figures. Figure 1 was flipped onto figure 2. Thinking about what these question marks, what these unknowns might be. I see that some of us started filling it out. And for those of you who want a little hint, I can say that this right here, and what I would do is I would look at my whiteboard, make sure that you're able to see my whiteboard by clicking toggle teacher whiteboard on top of your board. If one side is 47, right? If the top is 47, and that 47 was then flipped onto this side, what would this number be? What would this length be? And that's kind of what we're asking. And if this feels like it's a little tricky, this is not a trick problem. This is just a straight up, fill it out, what do you think type of problem. And so how do we start this? How do we start by, like, how do we figure out what this number is? Miguel, can you get us started on this conversation? Let's start with the top, this question mark. How do I figure out what this question mark is?
The 47 on one side and the question mark?
Yeah.
When you flip it, it's just being flipped to the other side. So basically the same side as the one that says 47. So the top basically would be 47 as well.
Okay, so you're saying that because it was flipped, this is also 47 because it matches.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Miguel. So it seems like we're just matching parts that are the same, that overlap when you flip them. Okay, so we have our first number. Let's fill that out. Let's make sure that we're filling out what Miguel helped us with. So we have 47. And I'm going to just say very quickly, don't let this overwhelm you. Don't let this diagram intimidate you. I know it's an eyeful. So right now we should have 47 on our second figure. Brandon, Damien, Luisa, and Felicity, if you're having trouble writing on the whiteboard for some reason, let me know. But okay, so we have 47. Nice. And we have 47 because, like Miguel said, it matches. Okay, Felicity, Brandon, I see your inputs. Nice. Now let's try to think about, Darluisa, that was correct. You can keep going on that. Don't second guess yourself. And nice, Felicity, I see that you said that they're matching. That is absolutely correct. And now what we're going to do is we're going to look at this one right here. This one right here. And so if I'm looking at this question mark, what matches with that side? What matches with the side that I just highlighted in pink? And once again, make sure that you can see my whiteboard. Okay, if that matches, then put the number, I don't want to give too much away, put the number of the side that it matches with, because right now we're just matching sides. Darluisa, let me know if you can't unmute yourself for some reason, but can you tell us what you got for that side, that pink side? If you can see my board.
I got 16.
You got 16, and okay, so how did you get 16?
Because the other side has like the same.
Okay, because the other side has the same. Thank you, Darluisa. Felicity, can you add to what Darluisa said and how she got 16?
From what I can add on is that if you look at it both, you can see the original does have 16, and if they do match, it's not. Since this is a flip, is that right?
Okay. Felicity and everyone else, I've put Felicity's diagram on the board, and I just want to ask Felicity, because I noticed that you did this, and I think this is really interesting. Why did you make these arrows? What are these arrows signifying to you?
These to me help me know which matches with which for the question marks, since my memory is horrible sometimes. This helps me to like remember which and which. And like, so I know like, oh, for the top one be 47 and 47, that will be a match, so let me mark those two as a match. Same with 16 and the question mark.
Nice. Okay, so if
In other words, it would be a way to help you remember like which side is which.
So it helps you remember which side is which. And actually, when we talk about this motion next week, we're going to talk about these arrows and the distance between these sides to that middle line. And we're going to uncover a lot of cool stuff about it. So it's nice that you're already kind of thinking about it. If this helps anyone out, so Brandon, Damien, Jarluisa, Felicity, or Miguel, not Felicity, you've already done it. But if Felicity's strategy can help you out, by all means, draw those arrows. Drawing those arrows is actually helpful. This is not like mental math. No, the more you put on the diagram, the more you uncover. So thank you, Felicity, for sharing out your work. I'm going to give everyone else a moment to kind of finish. I see that someone said that this side here was 7 right here. So we have this matching with this. So we have that. Someone said this is 7. And now we're getting into some territory that involves letters, right? So what I would encourage you to do is match them somehow. So I'm going to use Felicity's strategy because I think that's very helpful. My strategy is to kind of color them in. But if you can look on my board, I'm going to look at 2x, and I want to know what matches with the side 2x.
12.
12. Okay, so was that Miguel?
Yeah.
Thank you, Miguel. Yeah, so we have that 12 matches with 2x. So 2x and 12 match together. That means something. That has to mean something. That means that this right here is equal to 12. Right? Because if this is 12, that means that this is 12. Now, they tell us 2x, 2 times a number, is equal to 12, is the same thing as 12. So what is that number? What is the number that when I multiply by 2 gives me 12?
6.
6. Awesome. So we have here that x has to be 6 because 6 is the only number that when I multiply to 2 gives me 12. Okay, so we're kind of thinking about filling now missing things inside of sides, as well as solving for missing sides. So we're going to do 2 more sides. We have 2 more sides left, and slowly but surely, with the help of everyone, we are going to get this going. So now I have this side, this light blue, that is 4 plus y. And 4 plus y matches with what on the other side?
It would match with 9.
It will match with 9. Exactly. Thank you.
Simple addition, 4 plus 5 is 9.
So y is equal to what again?
Y is equal to 5, because if you just count from 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Awesome. Yeah, I think that looks good. Yeah. I think does anyone agree? Are we feeling good about that? Did anyone else get 5? Did anyone else get 5 as well for their answer?
Yes.
Yes? Okay. Okay, so we have at least 2 people that have 5 as their answer. I feel like it sounds, Felicity gave a really good reason as to why it could be 5. Okay. So we're almost done. Okay, we have 1 more side left. And I specifically didn't do this. I'm going to add this right here. This tick mark. And when you have a tick mark, it means something. Tick marks mean something in diagrams. So I'm going to give you a moment to think about what that tick mark might mean.
Congruent.
Congruence. And so now fill it out. Fill our last question mark out. That is kind of the last thing. Use that knowledge of, like Miguel said, these are congruent. Congruent means what, Miguel? Can you kind of elaborate for us a little bit?
They equal to each other.
They equal to each other. So in the left diagram, if this number is 47, that means that this number is 47. So tick mark just tells us what things are matching to each other. And so if this is 47, that means that the other side has to be 47 as well. A lot of these problems are meant to be broken down and thought about together. And if you feel like, man, I don't get the answer immediately, that's okay. Geometry is that sport where you have to take a step back and really think about what's going on. So this is looking really good. And I think we're ready for the next problem. Okay, so this one is a little less busy. The first one was very busy. And so we're going to look at this one. Take a moment and look at these 2 rectangular prisms. They're like rectangle boxes, right? And try to fill in the question marks for the second figure, or try to solve for x. So you can choose which one you do first. You can either solve for these question marks, what number is in this question mark, or you can solve for x. So give you a moment to annotate your diagram. Try to think about what matches. So like Felicity did before, try to think of what matches and plug it in. After this one, I'm going to send out the exit slip. So I'll give everyone a moment. If you want a hint, you could put like a question mark on your board so that I know that you would like a hint. Okay, so try to think about what matches together. So for example, I have an angle here, and when I turn this shape, where does this angle land? When I turn the shape, it lands, I think, here, right? And so then what is that number? Okay, Darluisa, you said that the question mark inside of the boxes was 90. Why did you say that these were 90? You can unmute yourself and share. And like I said, if there's stuff going on around you, that's okay. Miguel, I noticed that you also put 90 inside of the boxes. Can you share as to how you got 90?
The first one has a 90-degree, and also because the rectangle, like all the sides of the rectangle or of this cube, I should say, this weird rectangle cube, they're all right angles.
Nice. So we're digging up information from the past, right? And we're saying, okay, I know that rectangles have corners that have 90 degrees. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the link in the chat because it is 10:05, 10:06. And the link is in the chat for the exit slip. The side was a challenge, and Miguel, I see your response, and your response is correct. So thank you, Miguel, Felicity, Darluisa, for your participation out loud. Damien and Brandon, thank you for your participation on your boards. I did see you participate on your boards. And as soon as you click the link, you are free to go. I'm going to close the meeting in about 30 seconds because I have a